Yeah, yeah. Um, well, there you go. There you go. Dublin are beaten in Leinster, 23 points to 116. Meath, 23 points. Dublin, 116. Wow. Yeah, I don't know what to say, to be honest with you. I'm completely lost for words. And as Eddie says here, do these lives usually start on time? Usually they do, but today is a big day. Today is a very, very big day. And as A2 says here, well, that happened. That did happen. That was real life. That wasn't fake. That wasn't a joke. That wasn't staged like many other things have often so been. That was actually real. And genuinely, I'm in shock, to be honest with you. I don't really know what to say. Rory says here, well, it was good. It was a good run. Yeah, I don't know what to say. Like, genuine shock. I mean, the game happened about 3 hours ago. I was at the game. I'm only like just in the door, to be honest with you. And I don't know what to say. Look, fair play. First of all, congratulations to Meath. By far the better side. By far the deserved winners. They absolutely deserve to win the game. They should have won the game by more, in my opinion. Like, they led by 12 at half time, and in many ways, I felt like a flatter Dublin. I felt like they should have led by more, to be honest with you. It should have been far more comfortable at half time than it was. Dublin were atrocious. Dublin were absolutely terrible. I mean, that first half performance from Dublin was nothing short of embarrassing, in my opinion. It was absolutely shambolic. It was terrible. It wasn't Dublin I was watching, to be honest with you. Like, it was just absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible. And fair play to Meath. Take nothing away from Meath. Meath were brilliant. Meath deserved the win today. Meath were full credit for what they delivered and the performance that they put up. But Dublin were just absolutely dreadful. I mean, to be trailing by 12 at half time, and even at one stage, like, it was like Dublin didn't win a kick. Like, Dublin literally did not have their hands on the ball for about, in the opening 10 minutes. I mean, Meath just kept winning kick out after kick out after kick out. Cluxon just kept hitting it to the Meath midfield. And fair play to Jack Flynn, who I thought was absolutely tremendous. Brian Menton had a brilliant game as well. But Dublin were absolutely dreadful. I mean, that was so poor time and time again from a Dublin perspective. And yeah, it was just absolutely dreadful. It really, really was. And you couldn't believe it watching it. I mean, like, at half time, you're kind of thinking, right, it's a 12-point game. There was obviously a significant breeze that favoured Meath, and anyone who was at the game will know that there was a very favourable breeze that favoured Meath. Look, it favoured Dublin in the second half as well. It probably did die down in the second half, but look, that's not an excuse. I mean, Meath, in my opinion, should have been further ahead. Like, they missed chances early on in the game. They put a couple of chances wide, a couple of chances dropped short. And yeah, like, Meath were just by far the better side. They were absolutely dominant. Brilliant, big performance from Jack Flynn. Big performance from Owen Frayne, who was absolutely outstanding as well. I think he kicked 11 points in total. And Meath were just absolutely dominant. And Dublin just kept falling into the same old traps time and time again. And anytime we had the ball, we were like, we just lacked conviction. I mean, the amount of times that Dublin players were slipping off of kickouts, even off of frees as well. I mean, Costello slipped when he kicked one. Another chance he kicked like a mile wide. It was just absolutely all over the place. And it just felt like quite early on that, like, this was not going to be Dublin's day and that Meath had the significant advantage. When the second half came around, you felt like, right, it's a 12-point gap, which ironically enough was, you know, a 12-point gap has never been turned around in Leinster senior football before. So it would have been the biggest turnaround in Leinster senior football championship history, actually, if Dublin had have turned it around, albeit with the new rules and everything else. You know, it's a big, you know, it's a little bit of a difference, but it would have been very significant had Dublin turned it around. Look, at halftime, I still was somewhat confident with the new rules. I felt like that Meath would crack a little bit as well once the pressure got put on them. I felt that we would be able to make significant damage within the Meath side, but we didn't do that at all. Like, we had the goal, which was well taken in fairness, but we had a couple of other chances. I mean, Costello had a chance that was really well saved. And Costello obviously was the man who grabbed the goal as well. Why he didn't start, I don't know. Like, that was a little bit unusual in my opinion. But Yeah, Dublin were poor. I mean, Con was dropping a lot deeper to try and get more involved in the game, but we just don't have. We just didn't have the 2-pointers who can make a difference. I mean, I think we kicked 1 2-pointer, maybe 2 in the entire game. I think Pascal kicked the 2-pointer. I think Con kicked the 2-pointer as well, and I think one of those 2-pointers was maybe from a free. And we just really struggled. I mean, Paddy Small, to be fair, had a lively enough game. Like, he kicked 5 points, but it was just really poor. It was really poor from a Dublin perspective. And look, going down the home stretch, you're thinking we'll get a chance, we'll get an opportunity. But the amount of times Dublin got into good positions and would play a poor pass, like would drop a ball, would just make such a poor mistake, and Meath were full credit for it. Like, you shouldn't take anything away from Meath today. They were bang up for the game right from the get-go. They look well drilled. They look well oiled. And they punished Dublin. They absolutely punished us and took us to the cleaners in that first half. You know, they were 12 points up at half-time, but they should have been further ahead. As I said before, Owen Frayne was absolutely brilliant. Shout out to James Conlon as well, who I remember from a good few years ago, who was kind of bursting on the scene for Meath. And he started today at full forward and was absolutely outstanding. Aaron Lynch was very good coming off the bench as well. As I said, Brian Menton was excellent around midfield. You have to shout out the defence as well. Like, Donald Keoghan had an absolute monstrous game. I felt for Meath. He was absolutely brilliant, I thought. Sean Rafferty in a fullback as well had a very good game. So Mark and Con and Dublin were all over the place. And look, Theo Clancy as well probably should have been sent off from looking at various video clips. Very fortunate to have still been on the field, and that probably summed up Dublin in the first half. And yeah, we were just absolutely terrible and kind of incredible when the full-time whistle blows. It's like, wow, the first time we've actually lost in the Leinster Senior Football Championship in 15 years. And, you know, I was 15 the last time it happened. I'm now 30. You know, the last time Dublin lost in Leinster, I was basically a child, and now I'm a fucking fully grown man. It's incredible, really. You know, that's actually happened. And look, fair play to Meath. Meath loud in a Leinster final, like 2010 all over again, which was also 15 years ago. No Joe Sheridan around right now. At least I don't think so. Well, he is still around. He is still around, but he's not playing for Meath. Wow, just incredible. And look, fair play to Meath. I tweeted it out. I was like, fair play to them. They more than deserve the win. They were by far the better side. Like, this is not, you know, I was speaking to a few Dublin fans after the game, and at the end of the day, we can't be salty about it. We can't be ungracious about it, because Meath were miles the better side. I don't think Dublin actually ever led in the game at all. Do you know what I mean? If anything, if you had said that Dublin were the team in green and that Meath were the team in blue, maybe you would understand that a little bit more, but because at the end of the day, Dublin were so dominant in this championship for so long. But it just felt like Meath were the experienced team and Dublin were actually the side that were panicking. I always felt like when you looked at Cork versus Kerry last week, right? Cork going down the home stretch, when the game was there to be won, I felt like they did start to panic a little bit when the chances start to open up. Whereas Kerry were the team with experience and delivered and showed up when it mattered the most. This time around, it was the complete opposite way. Meath were the side that were composed, even though it probably shouldn't have been, given that they haven't won a Leinster title since 2010 and haven't beaten Dublin since 2010. But Dublin were just panicking. The amount of, like, Cluxton's so poor on kickouts time and time again. Midfield was absolute, at absolute C. Brian Fenton was Brian Fenton in particular. We miss him. Like, we miss him. We need him back in the team if we can. But, he obviously retired. Tom Lahiff was all over the place at different stages. I was nearly mixing him up and Brian Fenton there. But yeah, incredible. Absolutely incredible. There's loads of comments flying in here, so we need to get through them all. Mikey says here, Loud finally getting the replay. Only took 15 years. Congratulations to me. Despicable performance from us today. So complacent, arrogant, failure to do the basics. That was coming all year. Something rotten in Dublin football. Do you know, this has been coming for a while. And anyone who watched my videos in 2023 will remember when I was talking about Desi needing to leave Dublin, and Dublin's performances throughout that year were so horrendous. I mean, like, we nearly lost to Kildare and Leinster. We should have got beat by Roscommon in the group stages. There were so many abject and poor performances throughout that season. But the All-Ireland, like when it got to the quarter-final, we hammered Mayo, and then that just sort of propelled us and kicked us on. And maybe with individual quality as well, it just sort of propelled Dublin and sort of papered over the cracks a little bit. Last year, we were phenomenal for the majority of the season until that quarter-final versus Galway. But like, there have been a lot of very abject performances over the last couple of years when you look at certain games. I mean, last year versus Louth in the Leinster final, we were very poor. As I said previous, the year previous against Kildare, you can go back as far back as 2021 when we played Meath and Leinster as well. So there's been a lot of very poor performance. This hasn't been in isolation. There have been a lot of bad performances. This year in the league, we've had a lot of absolute hammerings as well. Got beaten by Tyrone by an absolute canter, Armagh, Donegal as well. Like some absolute hidings and hammerings in there. And against Wicklow in the opening game, you could excuse it to a little bit because we were always going to win that game. Maybe fresh off of a camp in Portugal. Desi openly said after the game that Dublin were really, really poor. And then when you think about it, if a manager comes out and tells his team that they were very, very poor, what would you expect the next game? You would expect a response. Do you know what I mean? You would expect a turnaround. You would expect players to be up for it. And yes, Sean Bugler was injured, which has been crucial. Look, Sean Bugler has been Dublin's best player, in my opinion, this season. But you shouldn't be relying your hat on beating Meath in the Leinster Championship on one player. That would never have happened with Dublin in the past, and it shouldn't happen here. And yes, you have the new rules. Yes, you have Portlaoise. But Dublin of 5-6 years ago would have won that game and probably would have won that game comfortably. They wouldn't have allowed that scenario to happen. And look, Meath were phenomenal. Look, they kicked 17 points in the first half. I think they kicked 6 in the second half. There was a very, very strong breeze. I think there was only maybe 10 points that were kicked on that opposite side of the goal. But Meath, like in big, big moments, won kickouts, whether it was Donald Keoghan, whether it was Jack Flynn, they won big kickouts. And the thing is as well, towards the end of the game, they weren't necessarily hanging on. It wasn't like it was all for, like men behind the ball. Like, even when the hooter sounded, they had a kick at the goal. They could have just kicked it out of play. They actually kicked the point over the bar when the hooter sounded. Do you know what I mean? Absolutely incredible stuff there. But yeah, Gavin says here, Meath in 2021, Kildare 2022, 2024, Louth last year. The signs were there and the gap was closed. And yeah, look, I mean, and the thing is as well is that Dublin at under 20 level haven't been great the last couple of years. Louth have beat us back to back. Meath have beaten us. Kildare have beaten us. Minor level as well, we haven't been great. There was always just kind of belief that there's great club players and there's enough kind of players there. And, it's kind of bizarre, really. Like Theo Clancy, who's been a player that's been heralded at coming in at fullback, started today at fullback, played under Robbie Brennan, ironically the Meath manager, with Kilmacud Crokes. But he was found out today. He was just at absolute sea. He was all over the place. And yeah, you have to credit Meath. Jack says here, have to say fair play to Meath to say this Dublin team are at the end of an era. I personally think it's the start of a few years rebuild, but you might worry with the lack of underage success as well. Yeah, it does feel at the end of an era. Absolutely. I wouldn't disagree with you there. I think that's definitely been on the cards for a couple of years now, but I don't think you can disagree with it now. I think the rest of Leinster now will stand up and look at this opportunity and think, if Meath can do this to Dublin, and like, they didn't just beat Dublin today, but in my opinion, they battered us. It was so comfortable. Like Dublin, like the game in the end finished as a 4-point match, but it really, really could have been more. Like it was so comfortable for Meath, and Dublin really, really struggled. And Meath were able to bring players off the bench that would make a difference, but Dublin just didn't have an answer at all. But yeah, Killeen says here, Dublin were poor the first half, but Meath 100% deserved the win. Irish Footy Vlog says here, some win for Meath, and at times Dublin, and at times bully Dublin, as Paul Flynn said. Yeah, like kind of what was more bizarre as well was watching this game was like, there was moments where Dublin would win the ball back, but then get dispossessed from Meath and like would lose the ball like easily under possession. I haven't seen that in a long, long time where Dublin have the ball and then like Meath would swarm. Like physically it looked like a match, and if anything it actually looked like it favoured Meath, whereas in the last couple of years even as far as last year, like last year when Dublin were playing Meath, it looked like it was men versus boys in terms of like size of both the players. It looked like Dublin were physically stronger, had a bit more stature about them. Whereas this time around, it looked like it was very even. But if anything, like there were times where Dublin would have the ball in attacking positions, but would get dispossessed quite easily as well from Meath. And that was quite alarming and quite concerning and almost bizarre as well, because I honestly haven't seen that, in probably since 2010, in all honesty. But yeah, Meath were brilliant in that regards. Like in all elements of the pitch today, they were a better team. I don't think there can be any complaints, even as a Dublin fan. And it's bizarre to think, because you would think that when Dublin lost in Leinster, it would be by, a last kick of the game or something like that. But actually, it was actually very comfortable for Meath. Tom says, great result for Leinster football. And A2 says, as a neutral, it's fantastic for football. Yeah, maybe so. It's probably is good for Leinster football. It will bring crowds back to Leinster football. Look, it wasn't fully packed out in Portlaoise. There were parts of the stadium that were empty. I think next year in a neutral venue that these games now sell out 100%, because, even looking at some Meath supporters as well, I don't think they could even believe it as well when the full-time whistle went. There was an era of, like, even before a ball was kicked, for example, I mean, Meath fans were in the terrace end where I was. I mean, Meath fans were kind of singing like funny chants and joking and laughing, and I don't think they could actually believe themselves even what happened. And you can understand that as well, because so many of them probably, especially young lads as well, probably wouldn't have actually seen Meath ever beat Dublin. So yeah, quite incredible as well. Rory says, checked the score on RTE. I couldn't believe my eyes. Alan says, Dublin missing too many players and too many players gone. Dublin gone for a few years. Brian says, many congratulations to Meath on a fully deserved and brilliant performance. Gavin says, Meath are deadly with the new rules and the win. Fair play. They held on in the second half. Colleen says here, who said the provincials are dead? Too many leaders missing, says Rory here. A2 says, we've seen that performance many times before with this issue with the goalkeeper, free takers, change midfield, non-existent, giving the ball away constantly, bad handling, 100%. Yeah, we have seen that performance on more than enough occasions, unfortunately, over the last couple of years with Dublin, but we just haven't been punished. And there was a feeling coming into this game, look, I said it in the preview show and everything else, but I always felt that Dublin would have enough experience, and I didn't think Meath would be as good as well, to be fair. Probably underestimated them a little bit in the flesh. I mean, how good they were, seeing them up close as well. I mean, it was incredible to just watch them kick point after point over the bar without hesitation. It was incredible, really. I mean, they missed a couple of chances early on. They put a couple wide, but generally speaking, they were absolutely phenomenal. And Dublin just didn't know how to live with it at all. And it just, even at half time, you're thinking, right, it's a 12-point gap. It's a huge gap. I was always like weirdly confident that we would turn it around, because we did something similar against Kerry earlier in the year in the league. And by all accounts, Kerry are a better team than Meath. And I felt like if we could bring the gap down with 2 pointers and we could bring it back to 4 or 5, that Meath would crack a little bit. But that wasn't the case at all. They held their nerve. They were able to keep the ball in big moments as well, show a bit of experience that Meath have never really had to do before. And yeah, phenomenal stuff, it must be said. Brian says here, well, we've been privileged to witness a great generation of players. They owe us absolutely nothing. They've been brilliant ambassadors for us. They can retire with their success. And Rory says, best Dublin team, they did us proud. Yeah, look, absolutely. Dublin owe nothing to nobody. In my opinion, look, that Dublin have, achieved the absolute pinnacle of the game. But it does look like it's going to be a good couple of years now of regression for Dublin. There isn't a huge amount coming through. Players have stepped away. There'll probably be more players step away now in the next couple of seasons. Look, they're still in the All-Ireland series. They'll go in as a pot 3 team. Dublin will go in as underdogs now as well, which is an unusual circumstance. And that will obviously make a big difference from a Dublin perspective. But even at that, I couldn't see Dublin doing that now, to be honest with you. I couldn't really see us doing that. Tom says, let's hope Louth win the final. Look, as a neutral, look, I'd like to see Louth do it, especially after 2010 and everything else. I'd love to see them get over the line. And look, given the work that they've put in over the last couple of years, I'd love to see them do it. But especially after Meath doing that, after Meath beating Dublin, if Meath beat Dublin and then lose the Leinster final, like that's a huge blow. That's a huge blow. Irish Footy Vlog says here, in fairness, Meath missing Morris too. Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a fair point. And that's incredible to think as well, is that Meath were missing probably one of their best forwards. Dublin were missing one or two key players as well. But, overall, Meath were missing a big player themselves. So there we go. Dubs fan says here, the possible group for Dublin looks scary. Yeah, it's hard to know, really. I mean, look, it depends on the pot 2 team as well. You could be drawn with a Clare, maybe coming out of Munster. You could be drawn with, I mean, we won't be obviously drawn with the Leinster winners, but I mean, it depends. There is a hypothetical scenario where we get drawn with the Munster winners in Kerry, maybe the Ulster runners up in Armagh, let's say, and maybe a pot 4 team in Cork. And they would all very much fancy their chances against us, to be honest with you. So absolutely, it's more than achievable. Rory says here, you might get a habit of thinking about Dublin in the final. Yeah, incredible stuff. But look, overall, fair play to Meath. They were by far the better side. Absolutely deserved of the win. Really, from early on, it was quite obvious that Meath were going to not win the game, but dominate the game. And it was going to be a tough going for Dublin. I mean, Dublin didn't score a point until 11 minutes. And at that stage, Meath were like 7-0 up. Dublin couldn't win a kick out at all. Stephen Cluxton really struggling. He still has the range on his kickouts, but I don't think he has the speed on them. So in previous years, he was able to spot things. He was able to spot maybe a gap and kind of offload the ball there. Whereas I'm not too sure that he has that anymore, in all honesty. So yeah, that was kind of a big difference. And midfield as well, where we're just absolutely dominated. And Kieran Kilkenny had an awful game. He was really poor. Losing the ball time and time again. Poor passes. Yeah, really sluggish there. And Brian Menton dominated the game in around the middle. Mikey says here, Dubs can't draw Meath in the groups, but they can draw Louth if they lose the final. Yeah, we could still draw Louth. And Porrick says here, why can't they draw Meath? And that would be because of repeat parents. We could still draw them in possibly an All-Ireland quarter-final or a semi-final. Look, I would love to get them in Croke Park, as we have played them in Croke Park so many times down the years. And maybe it is quite ironic that the first time we played them in Croke Park, played them outside Croke Park, they beat us. Look, I think if this had been 4 or 5 years ago, I think Dublin would have won the game. But I think Dublin have regressed, and Meath have dramatically improved under Robbie Brennan this year, and they were absolutely brilliant in this game. They kicked on after the Offaly game, after a very poor first half, and were deserved winners. So yeah, fair play to Meath. Massive congratulations to them. In terms of man of the match, look, there's a lot of players. I mean, you could look at Keith Curtis as well, who had a phenomenal game. But I think overall, I'd probably look at James Connellan, who I thought was brilliant at full forward for Meath, and had an excellent game. A2 says, you think we'll lodge a protest about playing outside Croker and how an unfair advantage it is to Meath. Rory also says Liverpool champions. I'm a United fan. You know what? That's also what makes today very, very strange, because I'm a Liverpool fan. So, I was in a bar in Portlaoise watching Liverpool win the league, and they played the beautiful county of Meath at full time. And I was like, this is just so weird. This is bizarre, man. Like, I mean, Liverpool have won the league for the first time in front of fans in 35 years, but Dublin have also lost to Meath. And the Pope has also died this week. Yeah, man, I don't know. This has been a strange fucking week, man. Strange week, but there we go. Mikey also says here, man of the match, Martin Sludden. Yeah, poor Martin Sludden, unfortunately, hasn't had the game. Owen Frayne says A2. And Gavin says here, Roscommon drew Mayo last year in the groups and played them in Connacht. I think Meath and Dublin can meet again. Yeah, maybe so. Maybe you're right on that actually. So maybe it could happen, but I think Meath, as far as I know, would have the home advantage. But yeah, bizarre anyway. But look, we'll wrap it up here. We will be back tomorrow to review the game in more detail and review obviously all the other games as well. Some not as many other real talking points other than this game. I mean, Donegal beat down. That game is now fixed for Clonus as well, so it won't be in Crow Park. And in hurling as well, big win for Waterford, which I did predict right. So go me. Ultimately, it doesn't make today any better. And of course, big win for Cork as well. So yeah, do let us know your thoughts, your opinions in the comments down below. Maybe to finish up here, Irish Footy Vlogs, great channel as well, covering the League of Ireland. I often tune into it, so make sure to check it out, even if you are a Meath man. But look, do go to check it out. Robbie Brennan deserves serious credit. Meath still have a way to go, but in 3 years there might be a proper side. No, absolutely. Look, Meath will take serious confidence from this. To have done what you've done there and beaten Dublin, and it wasn't even like a fluke win or anything like that. You get what I mean? Like, it was a proper deserved win. Like, it was a 4-point win. It probably could have been more. So you're more than full credit for the win. And it's a young team as well, as you even mentioned earlier. You still have Jordan Morris to come back into the side as well. So no, absolutely. Like, Meath, especially going into that Leinster final, even if you do win that going into the group stages, you'll take full confidence from it. Look, I wouldn't expect Meath to win the All-Ireland or even get beyond the quarter-final, but it absolutely gives you confidence, especially with the new rules. You know what I mean? And especially with a big win like that and how dominant it was as well. You know what I mean? Like, if Cork had beaten Kerry last week, you would have said, oh, well, they picked their moments. They waited for the right moments. They got a little bit of luck here and there. But with this game, it was pure deserved. It was pure deserved. But yeah, look, we'll wrap this up here anyway. I better get to sleep. So yeah, cheers anyone who tuned in. Hit the like button and subscribe. We'll see y'all later.